It is Monday, December 11th, 2017. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it's been terribly exciting. We have seen the launch of the whole futures business, something that's been feared by some, lauded by many. And I don't know, I've kind of fear-mongered a little bit about it myself, only because I've never really seen the point, the utility of it, other than to divert attention away from Bitcoin itself. Now, whether or not it'll actually have any kind of real effect in the crypto economy, I don't know. I don't think so, only because they're usually, from what I understand, they're mostly funded by Bitcoin. I mean, not Bitcoin, US dollars, and paid out in US dollars as well. So, you know, I don't know that, I mean, all it could really mean as far as the overall market cap of crypto is that it would be diverting monetary value that would ordinarily come into crypto and circulating it back into fiat under another vehicle. And so, you know, maybe that's good for fiat, you know, buying back their own debt in a different form. I don't know. But overall, as far as how it will affect Bitcoin in the long term, I don't think it's really going to afflict us all that much, because there are certain constants to be considered in Bitcoin mining. And from what I can tell so far, there really is no migration or no real push to migrate off-chain, even with all of the issues that Bitcoin is currently having with regard to network throughput, transaction fees, which are just completely ludicrous. And I mean, if you listen to that interview that I did with VergeDev, there was a part during the unofficial show, during the the live showing didn't actually have it because we had a music break in there, but VergeDev and I continued talking, you know, shortly thereafter the show ended. I mean, not the show ended, the music break ensued, and so I just left it in there because, in all honesty, the most controversial thing about it was my transaction fee. $22 on a $40 withdrawal. That's miner fee, that's exchange fee, and ATM fee. And the ATM fee was not $5. It was more like I don't know, it's like, I want to say $10 of it at least. And then there's also the arbitrage slippage between when I would start a transaction and when it would actually complete. According to the network metrics of Bitcoin, it should have been the first fucking transaction included in the next block, but it took a solid, I want to say, hour and change for that transaction to get its first confirmation. Actually, no. Let me take that back. I'm going to take that back because 2 times. And this is how fucked things have been, okay? This has been over the last, I want to say since, my first transaction wasn't this bad. The next one was kind of worse. The one next after that was even worse, and then the last one that I did was way worse. And what it was on the last 2 transactions is I didn't even get a first confirmation for like 7 or 8 hours later. Like the ATM, when it gets a first confirmation on a transaction, their system sends you a little notification, hey, you can go pick up your money now, right? Well, it was taking so long that the ATM operator did me 2 solids, although I really bitched them out over the last time, because this last time really, I mean, you have no idea how aggravating it is when Bitcoin is your means of transacting or making money in this day and age, and you don't have all of the outputs for your cryptocurrency established. You know, so for like Bitcoin, I was depending on the ATM, and that was clearly a stupid choice because, you know, it's just rape in a box. You know, I mean, basically it's rape in a box. You know, between the amount of slippage that I saw between when I started the transaction to when it completed, I lost out on potentially hundreds of dollars during that 6-hour period. So I don't know what was going on with that transaction, whether it was one of the 200,000 or 300,000 that were bumbling around in the fucking mempool, or whether the operator was just trading with my fucking cryptocurrency, exceeded his cost thresholds far enough, got far enough into his comfort zone on my fucking money, and then finally put the transaction through. Now, see, the thing is I actually had a code that I could have entered into the ATM, and assuming that they didn't do anything to actually terminate the transaction, I could have potentially gone back down to the ATM, scanned the fucking coupon, and double spent him twice for a total of like, oh shit, I want to say like $1,000 worth of transactions. And it probably would have been even more than that because of this exchange slippage that I'm talking about, or arbitrage slippage between when I started the transaction and when it actually cleared. And, you know, this illustrates the point of putting your transactions in the hands of a third-party arbiter. You do not have any control over when they actually clear the fucking transaction. That's none of your ability. You have no ability to impact the state of the transaction after you have given them your money. It's their money now. And so, you know, maybe if they feel nice, in like 8 or 9 hours, they'll probably try and put your transaction through. But only after they've made like $200 or $300 on your monetary value that you would have potentially made if you were trading with that volume. But no, it's in their pocket because, you know, they did you the favor of giving you pieces of paper. Anyway, so this latest voyage, I'm going to wait until on the other side of the music break for that. We have yet to do our first dance. It is, of course, customary on this show to get that stuff done. And last time we started off with some Black Dahlia Murder, but I don't know. I'm feeling a little more proactive. Let's go A Shogun Named Marcus by Clutch. First Dance, here on Coin Metal. And that was Prong with No Absolutes. And as I try to remind you all in crypto, there are no absolutes. A lot of people will tell you there are, but there aren't. I mean, as much as I would love to say that, you know, we can divine into the future and know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. No. There are speculators and there are people that listen to them. And you know, you can try and figure out which one you are. I try to go by what's actually happening, but you know, that's just me. That's the way I operate. But anyway, in the Telegram channel, we always get people saying, you know, when do you think Verge will hit $1? And all this other shit about price speculation. And it's like, dude, you know what? If you've been around long enough, you know any such effort, especially with Verge, is completely fucking futile. I mean, completely fucking futile. You know, take a coin out, you know, and a calendar, you know, and start with December and flip the coin. You know, is it going to hit $1 this month? No. You know, and call it, you know, heads yes, tails no. You know, is it going to break 100 this month? Flip a fucking coin, man. You've got that's about as much predictive power as anybody really has. You know, start doing that. What's that shit? I Ching. You know, get out your I Ching. You know, and start trying to divine that way. Maybe throw some bones. Maybe some dice. Maybe get out your tarot cards. You know, I mean, come on now, grow up. But anyway, so this guy asked this, and and so I'm like, when it reaches your butt, then you will know. You know, come on now. Although it was deleted, and that's probably not a good idea. Don't do that. Don't delete that shit. You know, you gotta let that shit happen. You gotta let people say what they're gonna say. Otherwise, you're obviously afraid of something. And I have absolutely no fear when it comes to Verge. I don't care if it goes to fucking 20 Satoshis. I'm still gonna be a hodler. Why? Because I've been a hodler since it was fucking 3 Satoshis. That's why. I mean, why the fuck would I sell it? Just because I buy more shit. Come on now. You know, and I gotta tell you, man, I've got a rule with coins that I really, really, really like. And you know, they tell you not to fall in love with coins, and I'll admit it. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm hopelessly in love with Verge. I like the idea, and I think its time will eventually come when somebody will pull the trigger on, you know, let's hammer down on trying to tax cryptocurrency transactions. And there it's going to be, providing people with the option again, whether or not they want to fund enterprises against themselves. I mean, that's about it. You know, what market containment is really about is maintaining the current status quo. You want to keep the players involved that will do the glad hand deals for the politicians, and you know, and it's grown into a very incestuous relationship. Now, the way that you change it, though, is not by changing politicians. It's by changing the source of the money. If you change the source of the money, the people that are holding the money, that is, you introduce a new value system into the equation. And that is how you change things. You know, you get people that hold the environment over mineral exploitation or oil exploitation, and they will invest appropriately according to their own interests, their own lifestyles, and their own value systems. And as much as governments and politicians have shaped our thinking in the past, it's only been because they have had the handles, they have had the switches, they have had the access that some of us have needed. But you know, that access, it's a lot like Bitcoin. You know, where if it is too scarce, then it becomes too valuable to transact. And if it's too valuable to transact, then it becomes pretty much worthless to everybody else, because they have to continue living. So they have to have a medium of exchange that they can continue to transact in. And if your interest or the gold or silver or paper or whatever it is, or Bitcoin, is too rare, too precious for them to hold on to or get access to, it is of absolutely no value to them. And I believe this is where the whole cabal that's holding up proper development of Bitcoin, with their attempted forcible introduction of off-chain transacting into the Bitcoin ecosystem as a primary practice, not as something specific people did, such as exchanges and people who have already taken on the massive responsibility of holding and trading your money for you. And these have been the only points that we've seen so far in Bitcoin that have really proven to have any kind of real vulnerability with regard to it. Now, I think the introduction of Lightning networks and all this L2 bullshit, it's going to introduce the possibilities for a great deal more frauds. And that, in my mind, does not make a market more viable or valuable to anybody. Especially if the mindset of some in the market has been to make Bitcoin so precious that you may not hold it, that you may not have it. If it is so precious that you do not have it, it is of no value to you, because if you do not have it, you cannot buy things with it. You cannot trade it for things of value to you, or things that are more valuable to you at any one point in time. Value does fluctuate. It's like, I've used this example before, but you notice you got that one gas station somewhere between Reno and Las Vegas, and it's out there in the middle of the fucking desert, and he's charging $4 or $5 a gallon for gasoline. It's not just because he's an exploitive asshole. It's because it costs him more to get the shit out to him, because he's out in the middle of the fucking boonies. He's a lower priority market. Okay, it's more important for the gas companies to be filling everybody else up before they hit him. So he has to do something to incentivize the draw. Okay, he can't be looking at the guy right across the street from him and be saying, "Look, I gotta be able to undercut this guy. Can you give me a break on my supply so I can undercut this guy and still walk away with something?" He doesn't have that luxury. He's out in the middle of nowhere, and so he is addressing a scarce market. And so, of course, it's more valuable to have that gas in town than it is to have it out near him, because you're addressing a much larger section of the market. So again, there have to be offsets, and we've seen this in Bitcoin. While all of us were kicking around under 10,000, Zimbabwe was trading 8 to 10,000. That was like 2 to 3 times what we were trading for in the rest of the world. And it's because their access to the rest of the world is so minimal by comparison to the rest of us, or most of us. And this is a point I want to get to with regard to mining. There's been all of this hubbub with regard to bigger blocks canceling out more of the availability of the market. And I can't stress enough how much I think that is complete and utter bullshit. Because, you could go out to the deserts of the Sahara or some place where it's fucking sunlight 60% of the time is like daylight, and it's not rain. Like 90% of the year, it's not rain. It's sunlight. I mean, you might have a sandstorm now and then, but it's sunlight. Now, if you could go there and say set up a series of nodes, maybe a few telecommunications towers, set up a line of sight grid, you can do so way cheaper than it would be to run cords out to the middle of nowhere. But of course, you would have to incentivize the electricity to come out there, or be able to supply your own. And personally, I believe there are enough actual natural resources in wind and in solar and in hydro to fit this need, to suit this need. I don't see any reason why a place that has fucking sunlight 70% of the year, if not more, should not have some solar arrays all over that shit. But there again, you create wealth where there was nothing before, and then of course you add the capability of being able to use electricity out in the middle of fucking nowhere. So you can establish things like telecommunications and maybe even a mining farm. and maybe a server farm for an exchange. And this would allow greater access there. But I can guarantee you it would be a hell of a lot cheaper to do it in like the Congo or South Africa or, you know, a million other places other outside of China. So this whole idea that, you know, we're locked down with this fucking Chinese mining monopoly. No. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, ASICs are starting to lose ground to GPUs as far as efficiency and power consumption. So I think we're going to see that trend continue. I mean, because face-wise, you know, as far as public-wise, NVIDIA and AMD have been understating their interest in this market to the extreme. To the extreme. I would be willing to bet you that they've got several fabs fired up right now, retooling to be able to crank out like, you know, 7 nanometer chips or smaller. And blow these ASICs fuckers right out of the water with a flood of cheap, fast, efficient, headless video cards. Or a new iteration of video card that we have not yet seen. But I believe ASICs, their days are numbered with regard to their mining dominance. And when that interval changes over, you know, we weren't always doing ASIC mining. At one point we were CPU mining, then we were GPU mining, then FPGA, and then, or FGPA or FPGA. I think it's FPGA. I don't even know what that one stands for, only because I've never used it. From what I remember of reading on it, that was at one point a military utilized circuitry of some sort. I don't know. Anyway, I think that we are going to see another jump. The ASIC mining, again, it will not be the most efficient mining, the most powerful mining out there. That we are going to see one of these big players, and I've been calling it for about 2 years now, that they would only really need to see a massive shift of interest into the mining space before they would jump. And here we have it, man. Here we have it. There's been a jump in Bitcoin mining. There's been a jump in the mining of other altcoins. And this is going to continue. I mean, we are just a fly speck on a fly speck right now in terms of the world economy. But I cannot stress this enough, that one of the things that we do when we're taking money into cryptocurrencies is that we're taking them out of the debt cycle. So they're not, that monetary value isn't being reutilized as backing for more debt. Okay, so that $1 that you're taking out of the system, you're taking about $10,000, $100,000, maybe even $1 million out of the system as far as extended obligations that dollar was supposed to match. And so what do they have to do? They have to print more of them. And I mean, now we're starting to see institutional interest. So I'm sure it's because they smell the blood in the water. And they understand what's going on. And they're like, we've got to find a way to turn over the amount of dollars we have now into a bigger amount of dollars. Because if we don't, we are going to continue to lose out against Bitcoin. But here's the thing. You're not going to be able to suck up enough value and enough dollars to offset the effect of what's happening with Bitcoin. And at some point or another, the value that you've displaced on the digital side of the market is going to be affecting the dollar bills in people's pockets, if it's not already, which I think it already is. And that is going to be bad. When you start seeing gasoline going for $10 a gallon, you know, people, they talk about expectations for Bitcoin going up to, you know, $100,000, $1 million, $1 trillion of fucking coin, right? What they don't talk about is what's happening to the US dollar on the other side of that exchange rate. If Bitcoin is worth $1 trillion, what is a gallon of gasoline worth? $100? $200? Tell me the US economy could run on $200 gasoline. $200 a gallon gasoline. No. So, you can see where I'm going with this. You know, even if we just made McAfee's claims of 500,000, we're still talking about $5, $6 a gallon gasoline. What do you think that does to the price of transporting everything up the line? It makes it more expensive. I mean, it's very, very clear. And so, unless we start seeing a greater migration to electrical vehicles that can run sustainably for, 10, 12-hour intervals, which is really what we need. You need a vehicle that you can run hundreds and hundreds of miles on a single charge, and also possibly be supplementing your charge off of solar skin or some shit like that. Some other means where you're taking electricity back into the system or pumping electricity back into the system as you're going. And be able to stay on the road 10, 12 hours. Because if we don't convert over to that kind of energy consumption model and energy source model, we're going to end up stuck in the dirt. Because we can't frack it quick enough to offset that effect that I'm talking about. I mean, as it is, over the last few years, we've been increasing the capacity of our output with fracking. But as many economists have said, the energy input is more than the energy output, meaning you put more money and more energy into getting the gallon of gasoline out of the oil from the ground than you do in a return on the gallon of gasoline. And you cannot run that model forever. You cannot. It is impossible. Anyway, I mean, because if you don't think it's impossible, try doing it with your bank account. It doesn't work. Anyway, we do have some stuff I wanted to get into today, and I've been seeing a few things that I wanted to touch on, but I was kind of diverted by this white paper that I came across for OMISGO or OMG or OMG or whatever. And so we may dive into this. I've got their white paper up here. It's about 16 pages. It's not terribly long, so depending on how much of it is actually math, because I don't read the maths very well. We've got a couple diagrams that'll take up a half a page. That's another half a page there, another diagram. And conclusion is actually on page 15. So, we may actually address this bad boy today. And so with that, I want to stop off on that for the moment, because I do have some other stuff. And this one, I think, is a little more important, really, considering what we are seeing with regard to Bitcoin and the trading thereof. There is a greater interest being shown in Bitcoin Cash. This was predictable. This is completely predictable. Why? Because Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin the way that it would have kept going if we just made the blocks fucking bigger. And I'm sure it might have one or two other little things that we, probably maybe could have lived without, but might marginally improve things later on. However, what we're seeing now with Bitcoin transaction fees going so high is that companies are starting to look to other cryptocurrencies to do their shit with. And here it is. This is on themerkle.com. And let's see, this is authored by JP Buntix, our good friend JP. There is no picture on there, so I'm just going to assume that JP is a man. So yes, penis. And here we go. CoinEx will relaunch with Bitcoin Cash as the default trading market. And this was authored December 11th, 2017, so today. When it comes to cryptocurrency exchanges, it is often difficult to find the right trading markets. More specifically, most companies use Bitcoin as their primary trading markets. Some exchanges also feature Litecoin or Ethereum markets, but those are harder to come by. ViaBTC runs an exchange service known as CoinEx, which plans to make Bitcoin Cash its primary trading market. Bitcoin Cash continues to make an impact. While it seems unlikely that Bitcoin Cash will replace Bitcoin in the short term, the currency continues to make its presence felt in the world of cryptocurrencies. More specifically, it is still the third largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization. That in itself is rather surprising given the initial assumption that this was another pump and dump coin. Hindsight is always 20/20, and it has become rather clear that Bitcoin Cash is a very peculiar creature which will stick around for the foreseeable future. Moreover, the supporters of this altcoin have received some interesting news. ViaBTC is a company which has always favored Bitcoin Cash over Bitcoin itself, and it has never shied away from making it clear to the public. As a result, the CoinEx exchange will make Bitcoin Cash the main trading market for all other supported currencies. This means it will become the world's first trading platform to ditch Bitcoin as the primary currency. Pardon me. Man. I had something in my mouth there and it flicked back on my throat. Alright, continuing on. Many people will remember CoinEx as the platform was forced to shut down in late October after the People's Bank of China banned cryptocurrency exchanges. Unlike what most people assumed, the CoinEx platform isn't dead or abandoned, as it was migrated only recently to the United Kingdom. Although the platform has yet to open its doors to the public again, the ambition to make this venture a success is certainly palpable. Designating BCH as the main trading market will certainly get some attention. All of this further confirms that this Bitcoin hard fork will continue its success despite the odds and despite negativity on the part of Bitcoin community members. CoinEx plans to open BCH trading pairs for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Zcash, and Dash. It is somewhat unfortunate not to see Monero on this list, but the company has made it clear that it will enable other currencies in the future. Which currencies those will be remains to be determined at this stage. An XRP BCH trading market would be another interesting addition, to say the least. Surprisingly, CoinEx also has no plan to support Bitcoin Gold at this point in time. This recent Bitcoin fork has not been overly successful in any regard, and it seems its struggles will only continue for the foreseeable future. A Bitcoin Gold Bitcoin Cash trading market would allow both forks to compete with one another, even though Bitcoin Cash is clearly in a more favorable position right now. All things considered, this is good news for all Bitcoin Cash supporters. It is not an announcement most people expected, but that is also what makes cryptocurrency so exciting these days. A lot of unexpected things have happened throughout 2017, and it seems 2018 will bring more of the same. An interesting future lies ahead for all cryptocurrencies with clear visions and solid technologies to back them up. I could not agree more. But that looks very interesting. I might even click on that one. Why not? We're actually talking about the success and failure of some coins, but so I really don't think that that this bump in the road is going to irreparably harm Bitcoin over the long term. I think that it will continue, that there will always be some people mining Bitcoin from now on, and I don't expect that to ever change. I do expect, however, the current trend to push transactions off-chain, I think that will end. And as a matter of fact, we are seeing some of that happening now. You know, there have been some altcoins that pressured their communities to adopt certain, how should I say this, protocol changes that were very significant, very divisive, and in my estimation at least, a little bit premature. You know, we didn't really have a success of SegWit, and I mean, so what? The technology works. You know, I mean, you can run a combustion motor vehicle on, you know, an internal combustion motor on a wide variety of fuels. But it doesn't mean that all of them are going to burn as efficiently, you know? And so it's my feeling that Bitcoin was created specifically to get around off-chain transactions. I mean, that's why we have a fucking blockchain to begin with, a public blockchain, no less. Is not only for us to have a record of it, but us to have that level of transparency over all of the transactions that are happening directly on the network. And I think the moves to try and get away from that model, I believe they will all end in ruin at one point or another. That if you're trying to hide shit, chances are you're doing bad shit with it. You know, come on now. Tell me it isn't true. Please. But you know what? That's why we do things in Bitcoin in the public. Because even if you are doing bad, we'll fucking find out eventually. We'll fucking find out eventually. I mean, they managed to, it's funny, this was CoinX. It reminded me of another exchange. I think it was CoinMX. You know, like the letter M and then the letter X, not MEX. That's a different exchange. Anyway, yeah, the whole debacle with their funding. I think they had an account listed with a bank that was what do you call it, a community credit union, and they had all their licenses and whatnot, but this was basically just, it was a way to strike the exchange down, was just to take out the bank that was willing to support them. For all we know, the majority of the people that worked at that bank, they weren't involved in any kind of scammery, so we don't know. And we don't know that there was actually any real scammery involved, other than they were operating without a license. And you know what? I didn't ask that an exchange had a license when I started in cryptocurrencies. It wasn't an expectation. I didn't care. I still don't. KYC, CYA, fuck that. I don't care. I don't care. That's a level of quote-unquote transparency that, in my mind, is just made so that others can continue to outcompete you. You know, if they have inside knowledge of your finances, then they can find ways to cripple you while enhancing themselves. And I don't know. I've looked more and more. I look at like the SEC and the FCC and the CFTC as that kind of thing. I mean, although I will say this, when I read the CFTC's primer on cryptocurrencies and cryptocurrency investment, I was really impressed with the type of advice they were giving. Some of the characterizations were a little bit off, but it would be like your parents describing something that you told them about, to somebody else. You notice there's like one or two little glitches in the understanding of the words when you hear it repeated back to you from them. But it's that same kind of alteration of characterization. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music, and then we will pick it up, and we might actually get into that Omisko. I actually have one or two more articles that I want to touch on concerning that subject matter. And let's go ahead and throw down a little bit of Sixth. It's been a little bit. So, Vivid, here on Coin Metal. And that was Breathing Lightning by Anthrax. And that was off their latest release, For All Kings. Although, I wonder if they're still on tour. They were on tour for a little bit. They're supporting the new album. But, yeah. What's this business here? Coordinate online consumer protection. Oh, okay. This different thing. Whole different business. I gotta wonder what I've got open in my tabs sometimes. But anyways, so we've gone through CoinEx. Will be relaunching with Bitcoin Cash as their primary base. But here we go. This is a new one, and it's not enough that a currency has to be available. People actually have to be using it for something. That demonstrates that it is valued by others. And this one is off of Cointelegraph, and hold on. Let's check and verify to make sure that the whole article is actually here and not somewhere else. It appears as though the entire article is here. They do that to you every once in a while, where they got like 2 paragraphs of the article, and then you find the link for the original source of the article, and then you got to reread the whole fucking. We like to avoid that on this show. Anyway, this is by our old friend Mr. Joshua Althauser. So clearly, yes, penis. And this was authored on December 4th of 2017. Archive.com secures more Bitcoin Cash than Bitcoin donations in 2017. The nonprofit digital library Archive.org has claimed that it received more donations in Bitcoin Cash than Bitcoin so far as of late, November 2017. The organization has decided to accept donations in Bitcoin Cash and Zcash earlier this month. According to the Digital Library Service, it has received more than $4,800 worth of Bitcoin Cash so far in 2017, which is more than twofold higher than the donations in Bitcoin. These results show that the nonprofit's decision to accept donations in Bitcoin Cash has been beneficial for the organization. Archive.org's donation campaign. The nonprofit organization is conducting its donation drive on an experimental basis annually. Among the virtual currencies being accepted by the nonprofit in the campaign are Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Zcash. The money raised from the campaign is used by the organization to maintain its operations and advance its goal to provide a free and invaluable service to all internet users around the world. Archive.org is also considered as the, quote, archive of the internet itself. The higher Bitcoin Cash donations that were received by the nonprofit compared to that of Bitcoin is an interesting development, as Bitcoin Cash is only in its first year in the campaign. Among the possible reasons behind this development are the increasing network fees for Bitcoin donations and the phenomenal rise of Bitcoin's price in the trading market. Brief profile of Archive.org. Archive.org, Internet Archive, was founded by Brewster Cale in 1996 with the goal of providing universal access to all knowledge to people around the world. The nonprofit provides free public online access to various collections of digitized materials, including software applications, games, websites, movies, and videos, music, moving images, as well as public domain books. Archive.org is supported by the Cale Austin Foundation. That's interesting. I would have expected it to take a little bit longer, really. But nothing in crypto happens as slow as it does in every other market. I think that should be evident to anybody who's been involved in cryptocurrencies for in excess of 6 months. You've observed this, where the market just moves too fast, man. There's too much shit going on at any one time, and you can't pay attention to all of it, but you can hope that you get in on the opportunities that are available to you when they are available. And so it's with that in mind. I got 2 other articles that I want to touch on, possibly 3. And then maybe if we got enough time, we might actually try and digest OMG's white paper. And I don't want to do that one yet. That one? No, that's not one we actually want to cover today. So that'll pare it back to 2. Like I said, we might actually get to that white paper today. But we're going to go with this one first. And this one's kind of interesting in its title. Why Litecoin is Dying. And this is on the Merkle.com. And, never mind. The date on this thing is July 2nd, 2014. Mark, you were really wrong. Never mind. It looked like it was something new. And actually, you know what? Just to vindicate Litecoin because of this bullshit old stupid ass article. And let's check the data. Oh, this one is actually the 10th. So this one goes to Mark, whatever your last name is. Mark, writer for the Merkle.com, who wrote this article, Why Litecoin is Dying, that we're not going to read. But it was authored on July 2nd, 2014. Mark that, okay? So, this article was by Joshua Althauser, and it was authored on December 10th, 2017. 3 years later. Litecoin set to approach $200 in monster rally. Due to recent hype of Bitcoin earlier this week, Litecoin has reacted with a massive run of its own. The cryptocurrency is now approaching a 100% increase in just 24 hours after Bitcoin cooled down. Impactful surge of Litecoin. The price of Litecoin is quickly heading for $200, marking Litecoin as the 6th largest market capitalization at almost $9 billion. Oh, wow. Recently, there was some concern that a flippening would take place, with Bitcoin Cash threatening to overtake Bitcoin's place as the leading cryptocurrency. However, If present trends continue, a different type of flippening may occur, with Litecoin's market cap potentially eclipsing that of Bitcoin Cash. Litecoin supports Bitcoin. Litecoin has historically played a fundamental role as a tester for Bitcoin, implementing potential BTC additions in a smaller, more controlled environment to see how successful they may or may not be. Litecoin's creator, Charlie Lee, has maintained a supportive attitude toward Bitcoin, and it's logical to suggest that Litecoin may not stray from its role anytime in the near future. And then Charlie Lee. Bitcoin is making a huge statement today, showing all of the altcoins who the king of crypto is. Wow, 16.5. I'm expecting a correction any time now, but then again, I have been expecting a correction since 5,000. What do I know? And that's an enunciation of what we were trying to establish earlier, okay? This is Charlie fucking Lee, okay? Master of Litecoin. And his call was off, okay? He's been calling it wrong since 5,000. Openly acknowledges it, goes, dude, what the fuck do I know, man? I don't know shit. And you know what? That's the attitude that you should always take in this thing, is that you don't know everything. And I mean, as much as I dislike SegWit and Lightning Network, or at least my perception of it, I'm willing to admit that I'm completely fucking wrong. I mean, if it turns out that I am, dude, I will eat the biggest motherfucking plate of crow there is. You know, but I've stipulated that there will be a necessity for a third-party intermediary, and that'll delete your fucking immutability and transaction censorship and all that other bullshit, the censorship-resistant aspect. Forget about it. And so, you know, that's my point of contention with the whole business, is that once you put it off-chain, you don't know what the fuck is happening with your monetary value. They could be trading it on fucking Bitfinex. You don't know. You just don't know. You know now, but are you willing to trade that? You know, when you do your transaction, you know, directly through your wallet to somebody else, and it goes through the Bitcoin network and so on and so forth, would you be willing to give that up, or that level of certainty up, for, you know, making your transaction teeny tiny? Some would say yes. I mean, the transaction fee. But I would argue that probably a majority of people within cryptocurrency would say no. And, you know, we are seeing a spike with Litecoin, but I think I saw somebody indicate the other day that like 60 or 70% of their volume is in like 4 wallets. So it's like, okay, what's going on there? What happens if they dump? I mean, it's that trust factor, you know? But I don't know if that's true. I haven't actually checked. Not going to promulgate any FUD, especially not while Litecoin is doing good. I've got to commend any cryptocurrency project that is still live this long. Got all the hallmarks of walking it through at least to where Bitcoin is now. And so, you know, when I look at Verge, I don't give a fuck that the price is tiny. Big whoop-de-doo. Makes the transactions cheaper. What's that going to do? It's going to cause more people to use it in times when the inflation on Bitcoin transaction fees are just too much friction for them. You know, if I had the option to use Verge at the Bitcoin ATM, I would fucking do it. Why? Fast. Cheap. Dirt cheap. You know, if it does the same things that Litecoin does, and it does the same thing that Bitcoin does, and it does the same thing that Bitcoin Cash does, I really don't give a fuck. Does it move monetary value from me to another person without a third-party intermediary? That's all I care about. That's what this shit was designed to do. This bullshit. Oh, we're going to go segregated witness and then we're going to hand it off to the Lightning Network and it may eventually get to the Bitcoin blockchain. No. There's a 10-minute interval for the block. If I don't make it in one block, I'll hang out in the fucking mempool until I time out or the transaction clears. That's it. It is funny to me that I think the time interval is like 8 hours before a transaction will finally just get bumped out of the mempool and it'll cancel. And that would lend a little credence to my thesis that they're just trading with the fucking monetary value from my Bitcoin. They're trading with my Bitcoin in the background, and then they wait until right before the block passes that's going to bump the transaction completely out of the mempool. They put a high ass fee on it and pop it into the next block coming. Then I don't know. That's just a possible thesis. I could be mistaken, but like I said, when I receive a notification 8 hours later that my transaction just received its first confirmation, and it's supposed to do so in 10 minutes, and I paid $22 worth of transaction fees on a $40 transaction, I expect the fucking thing to be done in 10 minutes, not fucking 8 hours. That's what, like, I'm not even going to bother to calculate right now. But it's a lot. It's like 480 times longer than it needs to be or some shit like that. Anyway, or at least 48. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. Because I think we've kind of squashed this whole fucking Litecoin thing down. Actually, you know what? That was a really short article. I'm going to give you a little more. No, not music right now. So let's go ahead and get that one out of the way in the Spider one. I've been looking into Powerman 5000 a little more, and I think they're one of those bands that got kind of overlooked, and they do have kind of a, how should I say this? Kind of a more mass market appeal, kind of niche. But I don't know. That's not all of their music. I mean, all of their stuff doesn't do that. But it seems like the market accessibility is a big priority for them, and so what? But I will say this: all of the music that I've listened to so far of theirs has been pretty damn good. So I can't take anything away from them. The fact that that Spider One is Rob Zombie's brother, that doesn't give it too much, weight as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I got this one other article that I want to dive into before we do any music. Or any more music, rather. And this one is on Fortune.com. 5 Bitcoin rivals that are rapidly on the rise. And this is by Lagney Barron? Or Lagney Barron? No pictures, so I'm just going to say question mark. I don't know if that's male, female. No picture to verify, so let's continue on. 5 Bitcoin rivals that are rapidly on the rise. Bitcoin prices peaked at an all-time high of over 11,000. Wait a minute. Oh, this was December 4th. Let's keep this in mind. December 4th. So that was 8 days ago. This is a fucking lifetime ago. Bitcoin prices peaked at an all-time high of over 11,800 Sunday in one of the most dramatic value surges of any asset in living memory. Today's prevailing digital currency was worth just $12 in 2013 and has at times been dismissed as an internet fad favored by nefarious wheelers and dealers trying to circumvent taxes or the law. Like it or love it or confused by it, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have become impossible to ignore. Chicago's two main exchanges, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the Chicago Board Options Exchange, have announced plans to launch Bitcoin futures contracts, and the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission has already given them a green light. NASDAQ may be jumping into the Bitcoin futures race as early as second quarter next year, Bloomberg reports. Bitcoin advocates are hoping the exchanges can help stabilize the highly volatile currency. No, it won't. There are mining realities behind it. Cryptocurrencies provide a digital alternative to government-issued fiat currencies and can be used in online marketplaces to buy everything from cupcakes to plane tickets to cyber pets. While Bitcoin remains both inconveniently slow, transactions can take upwards of 10 minutes, and risky, buyers cannot set a price until the date of the transaction, leading to wide fluctuations. Some say it's already safer than certain foreign currencies, such as Venezuela's Bolivar. Absolutely true. That's because Bitcoin is protected from fraud and counterfeit by technology called the blockchain. Not entirely true. The blockchain is a byproduct of the security mechanism, i.e. the miners. An encrypted ledger system that records transactions accepted by consent. That's not true at all. It doesn't record transactions. Miners record transactions on it. It is a product of the miners. Keep that in mind. Accepted by consensus of asset managers. Bullshit! Bullshit! You are doing a fucking disservice, Lagney. You're fucking lying. Liar. The Atlantic's Derek Thompson summarized Bitcoin as, quote, frankly terrible currency built on top of a potential transformative technology, one that could have the power to change our conventional understanding of money. And you know what, dude? I don't even know that I want to finish this article. I think this is bullshit. Anyway, we're going to give this monkey his fucking due, and we'll see what's up. Others are more concerned by possible financial risks than potential benefits. Investing pioneer Vanguard Group Inc. founder Jack Bogle reportedly advised avoiding Bitcoin like the plague, joining other investors in similar criticism. There's nothing to support Bitcoin except the hope that you will sell it to someone for more than you paid for it, Bogle said, according to Bloomberg. Yeah, there's that. Despite the growing number of detractors warning of a bubble, Bitcoin mania shows no signs of abating. And I got this fucking pop-up shit. No sign of abating, and its competitors are also gaining traction, all rushing to become the main purveyor of a future cashless world. Here's the lowdown on 5 of the most popular Bitcoin rivals, all of which had a market value of over $5 billion Monday, according to CoinMarketCap.com. Ethereum. Like Bitcoin, Ether tokens are underwritten by a blockchain network, in this case called Ethereum. Pioneered by a former Bitcoin monthly writer, Ethereum was launched in 2014 with an aim to pursue further decentralization. It differs from Bitcoin primarily in application. Ethereum is an open decentralized software platform where Ether is used to pay for transaction fees and services. As of Monday, it was trading at a rate of more than $472 billion with a market cap of about $45.5 billion. Lies, lies, lies. The implication here is that Bitcoin is an open source, and that it's not open or decentralized, or that's complete bullshit. Ethereum is more centralized than Bitcoin. It has a fucking CEO. Ripple, XRP. Launched in California by former Bitcoin developers in 2012, Ripple is considered by some industry experts to be Bitcoin's logical successor, according to the New York Times. Of course, according to the New York Times, they've got fucking the NYDFS in their state. It's already catching on among banks as a worldwide payment remittance system, not according to some developers I've talked to. Unlike Bitcoin, Ripple is not just a currency, but a system through which any currency can be transferred or traded via IOUs. The Times advised to think of it as a Western Union without the heavy fees yet. As of Monday, Ripple was trading at a rate of more than 25 cents with a market cap of around $9.82 billion. As defined in what? Bitcoin. That's right. IOTA, or MIOTA. IOTA with the tagline, quote, next generation blockchain, is one of the newest contenders in the increasingly crowded cryptocurrency field. Unlike its rivals, IOTA is not reliant on an underlying blockchain network, but uses an alternative, distributed ledger system called Tangle. Partnered with Microsoft, Fujitsu, and several other companies, IOTA considers itself to be the first marketplace powered by the Internet of Things. As of Monday, it was trading at a rate of $2.43 with a market cap of around $6.75 billion. Dash. Dash ran through a ringer of names before settling its current epithet. There was Xcoin, the original, in January of 2014. Then there was the dubious-sounding Darkcoin. Then finally there was Digital Cash. And its portmanteau, Dash. Dash differs from its competitors with a focus on privacy and anonymizing transactions, and by operating on a two-tiered system. Coin miners are overseen by masternodes, a decentralized volunteer network that signs the transactions. As of Monday, it was trading at a rate of $777. With a market cap of $6 billion. And last but not least, Litecoin. The brainchild of a former Google employee, Litecoin has been called the silver to Bitcoin's gold. That is a slightly cheaper, more readily available option. Litecoin was launched in 2011 as a faster alternative to Bitcoin, processing a block every 2.5 minutes as opposed to every 10, according to Ars Technica. Instead of focusing on hefty transactions, Litecoin targets merchants who need a large volume of small transactions to be processed relatively quickly. As of Monday, it was trading at a rate of $101 with a market cap of around $5.47 billion. So, there you have it. A list, and I didn't bother to add the disinformation omissions or admissions, or yeah, I don't know. Anyway, the my additions to the coin reviews here, but yeah, this one paragraph, it really fucks with me. The idea that it kind of characterizes Bitcoin as being some sort of closed system, and as I illustrated earlier in the show, whatever centralization Bitcoin may actually be experiencing right now with regard to mining or interest in the market, going from being a primary medium of transacting monetary value over to more a trading unit, or a unit of settlement maybe, or a unit of I don't know, value storage, something like that. A hedge against the U.S. dollar or other fiat currencies, other national currencies. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I think we will find out. I think that in the longer term, we're going to see a diversity of interest. It's not just going to be with Bitcoin. It's not just going to be with Bitcoin Cash or even Litecoin or any of the coins that we're familiar with right now. But I can say this, that I don't believe it'll be a national currency. I mean, there's been some interest from various countries in making various crypto units of their own, such as Russia's crypto ruble, and I think the Venezuelans were looking at the possibility of doing a crypto bolivar. I mean, I don't think that they would be able to draw enough of their mining community into those. And as a matter of fact, I don't think they're actually interested in having their mining community involved in them. In which case, what value do they have over the paper units? It's just a digitized version. I mean, you might as well just walk around with your fucking credit card and do all your transactions via your credit card. It'll probably be the same medium of exchange. I mean, what the fuck do you care if it's a fucking crypto ruble or a regular ruble? It doesn't... If it's not conferring any additional value to you, it doesn't have a publicly mined blockchain that's completely transparent. So what the fuck value does it have to you that the paper ruble didn't confer? Your credit card provider probably isn't going to notice the difference, really. I mean, they might have to watch it a little closer because of the potential for fraud, but the fact remains that it would still be a trust system. And I think this is something that all these companies like IBM and whatnot are losing it when they're talking about having their own blockchains. It's like the blockchain was meant to be public. It's not meant to be a private thing. It's not a fucking database. It's not a distributed database. It's a public account of record. And again, that article completely mischaracterized the source of the blockchain and actually what it is. Again, the blockchain is the result, the work of the miners. It's evidence of the work of the miners. If the fucking miners don't do the work, it's not on the blockchain. Even if they do the work, sometimes it's not on the blockchain because it gets orphaned or whatever. But the point being is the location of mining, the people that are controlling mining, that's going to change over time. And nobody can predict exactly where it's going to end up. As I've illustrated also in this show, it could just as easily move to the Congo or Somalia or sub-Saharan desert, some fucking place that has a vast amount of natural, raw, harnessable energy sources. It's like here in Oregon, we've got a persistent 15-mile-an-hour westerly wind on our coast. Persistent. It doesn't matter like what day you go out. There are points on the coast that there's always a 15-mile-an-hour wind going across that shit. At some point during the day, it's going to have a 15-mile-an-hour or plus or greater, and often greater, mile-an-hour wind blowing through it. Why the fuck we aren't harnessing that and electrifying the entire fucking state with it, I don't know. I think at last count we have maybe 5 million people in the entire state of Oregon. There's no reason why we couldn't electrify every single fucking house to like 10 to fucking 20, 30, 40 times as much electricity as they're actually using. We would have to be selling our fucking electricity to Washington and Canada and Idaho and Montana and California and Nevada, because we'd have too much of it to be holding in our own system. But no. We got to stay in the 1950s. We got to power everything by nuclear power and by coal and by natural gas and by gasoline and oil. Because, that's more fun, If we keep doing that, we can necessitate going across the planet and blowing up other people, because we got to keep the price of oil down, And if they know that they own it, or if they're actually the ones that pump it out of the ground, we're going to lose control out of that, So we got to, we got to enforce some control over that shit. Give me a fucking break, man. The amount of brain power that I see being fucking wasted on bullshit and devoted to new ways of fucking other people out of money. And it embarrasses me, really. I mean, that I look at my species and I see this shit. You're looking at access to a level of information that has never been known by man. And here we are, we're fucking using it to make better and faster drones so we can blow each other up faster. Or at least that's what I'm seeing it being dedicated to. I mean, there are some worthy projects, and I am seeing an enhanced interest in those, and that brings a little bit of warmth to my heart. There's that big ass patch of plastic out there in the Pacific Ocean, and there's several people working on possible resolutions to that. And there's a guy in Japan. He can convert plastic back into, I think it was back into oil or into gasoline, one of the two. But he had a process in his house that he could do this with. I mean, so when you hand that to us, or hand that to our children, what kind of world do you think that they could grow from that? I would argue probably a lot more hopeful and a lot more, how should I say this? Just a lot more beneficial for ourselves and the planet at large. I really believe that the next century is going to be spent primarily cleaning up the detritus of the last 2 centuries and reutilizing the materials that we find. I mean, I had a layover in Chicago on my way out to New York one time, and when we were flying over it, there was a warehouse district near the airport. And as far as I could see, just these huge former factories, former warehouses, just all the windows broken out of them, or windows that were broken out of them, graffiti everywhere. And I'm looking at all that land space, and all I can think about is, that could be repurposed. We could level all of that shit and just let nature have it back. That would enrich the lives of everybody. It would decrease the amount of available real estate for development. That would increase the local land values of the remaining standing structures, so on and so forth. It would be beneficial for everybody. Plus you have the additional natural resources. They're very close to the city, if not in the center of the city. But, it would be a tremendous cleanup effort. And like I said, when you change the hands that the money is in, you change the value systems that directs how the money is dedicated. And when those hands have the option of saying, oh yeah, sure, I want to collateralize a loan to Raytheon to develop a better, faster drone to blow up people 8,000 miles away that I've never heard of, who have never done anything to me. Or, no, I'd rather take that money and dedicate it to somebody researching buildings in Chicago, like dedicating buildings, existing structures in Chicago to being farms in the middle of the city, or not necessarily farms, but gardens, or maybe maybe farms too, having chickens inside the garden structure. But the point being is that that's the kind of thing that I see in the future, that we're going to fucking nuke and pave what we currently have as society, and it's going to be the result of the massive shift in wealth that we are seeing. And again, the interests of the people that are not the same as the ones that are. You know, the ones that were the primary purveyors of money issuance, their interests are not the same as the ones that are developing altcoins or new developments for Bitcoin. And so, like I said, I think we're going to see a reflection of that this next century. And there's certainly a lot more interest in things like gerontology, life extension, more interest in space travel and personal air travel. You know, basically a fulfillment of at least a glimpse of that Star Trek, Star Wars world that we keep seeing on the big screen. You know, everything that we see, you know, like fictionally being displayed to us in CGI and whatnot, all of those things can be brought into the material world. We can have Star Destroyers, we could have Death Stars, you know, we could have the Na'vi fucking planet-wide hookup through some sort of mycelial growth coming out of a tree. We can have all of these things. They're all inside of us. They're all in our minds. Every visual representation you're seeing about maybe 15, maybe 30% of the object itself. And evidence of this is things like flip phones, or things like interstellar communication, like, you know, Star Trek. It was the most, you know, passive thing for them to be talking to Earth from the spaceship, or talking to Mars, or Zeta Reticuli, or whatever the fuck, through their comms on the ship. Now, the assumptions that are involved in there are so fucking huge, you know, that we would be able to receive that wide a variety of signals, that we would be able to transmit in that wide variety of signals, that we would be able to do it in real time. Huge, 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 huge assumptions. But here we are, in 1996, 1997, we had flip phones. We had a small phone that fit in your fucking hand that you could flip open and say, "Beam me up, Scotty." That's proof that everything you see in a movie, whatever it may be, is about, I would say, 15, maybe 20% of the thing being corporeal, existent directly in front of you, in your hand kind of thing. You know, that lightsaber you see Luke waving around, that could be a real thing. We see actual representations of it already that are about 50% of the real thing. So you see where that goes? Those spaceships that you see, the Millennium Falcon, fuck, that thing is like 30% real. There's mock-ups, fucking real mock-ups of the ship itself that exist, that are real, that have lights and switches and shit, that have all the tables and all the turrets and shit. That exists. So, you know, how much longer before when you flip the switch, the fucking engines light up? And when you pull the trigger, the guns light off? No, not much longer. Not much longer. We're a lot closer to it than the 1960s. We'll just leave it at that, because there had been people working on that shit ever since they saw that in 1968 or 9 or 78 or whatever the fuck the first movie came out. I know it was like slightly after I was born. Not much longer. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And as far as what to pick, I haven't actually decided. And, you know what? We haven't played any KMFDM in a long time. Let's go ahead and do that. A little bit of Drug Against War here on Coin Metal. And that was Cowboys from Hell by Pantera. And so, we got this fucking white paper here. And I think we should get into it because I do have one additional little article, but I don't know, I think we can make it. I think we can do this because they're decent size, it's decent size text. So let's go for it. This is Omisco, Decentralized Exchange and Payments Platform. And this was authored on June 17th, 2017. Abstract. Omisco is building a decentralized exchange, liquidity provider mechanism, clearinghouse, messaging network, and asset-backed blockchain gateway. Omisco is not owned by any single one party. Instead, it is an open distributed network of validations which enforce behavior of all participants. It uses the mechanism of a protocol token to create a proof-of-stake blockchain to enable enforcement of market activity amongst participants. This high-performant distributed network enforces exchange across asset classes, from fiat-backed issuers to fully decentralized blockchain tokens, ERC-20 style, and native cryptocurrencies. Unlike nearly all other decentralized exchange platforms, this also allows for decentralized exchange of other blockchains and between multiple blockchains directly without a trusted gateway token. Markets may be able to significantly reduce spreads and encourage market assurance via decentralizing custody and increasing transparency of market activity. This is achieved using smart contracts, protocol tokens enforcing correct market behavior of order book matching, a new construction of Ethereum bonded external enforcement of clearinghouse activity, and commitments to historical exchange data for use with Ethereum smart contracts. Number 1. Introduction and problem statement. The primary role of blockchains are to solve coordination problems among multilateral agreements between a network of participants. By ensuring transparency, assurance, and enforcement, we can enable multilateral agreements where they were not previously possible. When all parties are assured that the operations are not only transparent, but also the mechanisms are guaranteed not to change without significant effort, parties are more willing to coordinate. Participants have significantly higher guarantees that a single party has difficulty difficulty forcing other parties in the future into usurious rent extraction via a change in business process or information asymmetry. In other words, any single participant is more willing to use systems where the business processes and mechanisms itself are not owned by any other single participant. There is a fundamental coordination problem amongst payment processors, gateways, and financial institutions. For instance, a customer of a bank wishes to pay a merchant on another network. Traditionally, there have been significant efforts in engineering around payment systems which are compatible across payment networks and financial institutions. These are usually constructed by creating a clearinghouse which manages the interchange, usually via a messaging network or either a centralized counterparty clearinghouse or a Nostro/Vostro accounts. Examples include Fedwire, CHIPS, SWIFT, consumer card payment networks, NSCC/DTCC, OCC, and ACH. These networks service different roles and functions, including local/national payments, international payments, credit, equities/asset exchange, and derivatives. These centralized networks allow for the controlling entity to arbitrarily change the mechanisms, which result in significant amount of transaction costs via information costs, due diligence, and contractual enforcement between all parties. We believe that there is currently a large emerging market of disruption in digital payments with new payment platforms, Ergo, Venmo, Alipay, etc. These networks have significant aversion to interchange across networks, as it usually requires significant overhead costs in trust with the interchange facility. Parties are unwilling to use central counterparties, as neither party wishes to defer to the other, and use of Nostro/Vostro accounts require bespoke contracts between participants. While the larger networks have significant incentive around protection of their network effects, we believe that there is a long tail of entities wishing to provide e-wallet services which require greater coordination amongst multilateral participants. These mid-sized participants will be able to cross-value across networks in order to reach sufficient network effects in usability. The infrastructure and reference front end for these providers will allow for the network effects to be encoded into this network, allowing for the emerging e-wallet participants to instantly create high network utility. Blockchains allow society to externalize the world's business processes from a single centralized corporation into open, decentralized computing networks. OMISCO is a network which decentralizes market liquidity, order book matching and execution, clearinghouse custodianship, and high scalability payments to help resolve payments across these emerging e-wallet payment networks. By shifting these business processes traditionally placed into a single corporation, it is possible to provide e-wallet providers an entire interchange process in a decentralized, high-performant, open network. 2. Design approach. The end state requirement is a construction of a decentralized mechanism for e-wallet platforms holding fiat-backed value, as well as native opt-in support for cryptocurrencies. The e-wallet fiat tokens will have the ability to either use Ether on decentralized public Ethereum chain or other decentralized cryptocurrency as the interchange/intermediary cross for maximum efficiency. We believe this allows for significantly more activity and value in decentralized cryptocurrencies, as it will serve as a useful venue for many e-wallet platforms. As its core, a function for this decentralized network to do e-wallet interchange, a blockchain ledger on OMISCO is necessary to hold the general balance of funds per e-wallet service or any user/node. This ledger must be able to hold funds across many assets/commodities. However, merely holding a ledger is insufficient for interchange. The mechanism must also allow to trade these assets/commodities. In order to perform interchange, it requires an order to be placed across many different pairs on an open public market. This requires a decentralized order book and trading engine. The trading engine is built into the OMG blockchain. Orders are published and matches are performed as part of every block. When a matched order has reached sufficient number of validation confirmations, this results in a non-custodial decentralized exchange held by a single party where the e-wallet platforms may exchange onto other e-wallet platforms without centralized trust in a single entity. However, direct crosses between e-wallet fiat tokens may not be desirable, as there may be too many. It would be necessary to use cryptocurrency for a liquid market without single preference. By bonding Ethereum into a smart contract or Bitcoin-like tokens into bonded clearinghouses, it is possible to lock up Ether onto the activity of the OMG chain to allow for e-wallet pairs to occur over Ether or other cryptocurrencies, creating a liquid market. If every pair crosses with ETH, spreads would be much smaller, provided some e-wallet tokens will be used as interchange crossing. However, there's strong incentive to use decentralized tokens for settlement due to coordination/trust advantages related to programmatic adjudication. E-wallet fiat tokens may also cross using other e-wallet tokens if necessary, but bonding which don't affect short-term exchange rate fluctuations of smart contract activity will be primarily in Ethereum. Ergo, HTLC clearinghouse, liquidity providing, and OMG chain enforcement. By allowing for cryptocurrencies to be the backing for e-wallet platforms, the platforms can be assured of an even playing field between e-wallet interchange activities. This requires a greater degree of liquidity in funds locked up, and the Osmigo decentralized exchange may not be desirable to transact for low value interchange activity, ergo for high volume micropayments. Not every payment between two distinct e-wallets must be performed using a trade on the decentralized exchange. There is an expectation that e-wallets will hold some reserve of fiat tokens of other e-wallets, ready to be used for smaller transfers in popular directions. Constructions such as Lightning Network allow for payments to occur off-chain when the e-wallets hold balances to facilitate rapid payments. Implementations allow for payments across Bitcoin and Ethereum, which can easily be ported to the OMG chain for e-wallet balances. Dude, this is confusing as shit. The result of the Omisco blockchain construction is it allows for e-wallet interchange supported by a decentralized exchange, cryptocurrency, ergo ETH matching, order book, and clearinghouses without full custody trust. This doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of gobbledygook put together. I don't know. And it's in broken English. That doesn't help. Let's continue. We're on page 4 of 16. 2.1. Decentralized liquidity hub for channels. Decentralized liquidity hub for channels. Bank account. The construction has the additional benefit of allowing for a decentralized liquidity pool to be created for use with payment channels on various cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and, to some extent, Ethereum. For individual token payments on blockchains, there is a need to scale the underlying blockchain activity, which does not affect the underlying chain to reduce computational pressure of validating/mining nodes. It is therefore necessary to conduct Lightning Network activities or similar constructions using channels. However, Lightning Network faces significant pressure around network effects with capital. It's desirable to prevent liquidity pools from centralizing to a single trusted entity. But that's the eventual progression. We all know that. By using the same mechanisms of the decentralized clearinghouse, we can create a Lightning Network hub which is not owned by any single individual on tokens which support more complex smart contracts. Ergo Ethereum, ERC20-like tokens, etc. Okay. Wow. For the currencies with simple smart contracts, any node on the network, ergo Bitcoin network, can act as a gateway into the OMG chain pool and cross back with any other participant. This allows the Omisco chain to offload a lot of on-chain activity while encouraging decentralization. Oh gosh. We believe that the natural... I'm waiting for one little thing in here, okay? And I will call it out if I see it. We believe that the natural network effects of liquidity concentration can be mitigated by decentralized stake chains with deterministic/known consensus rules. For Ethereum in particular, and other full-featured smart contract scripting blockchains, all participants set up channels into an Ethereum smart contract operating as a single pool of funds. The chain state of the OMG chain reflects the current balance of participants, to our knowledge. This allows for any participant to supply liquidity onto this network, which can be allocated in accordance to the OMG chain consensus rules. Limits may be in place early on to prevent this blockchain from sucking up all the spare liquidity from the cryptocurrency space if this construction is successful before robust testing/validation over time. These funds can thereby be used for any liquidity activity on the OMG chain. But who discerns exactly who it should be, or what it should be dedicated to? That's my question. 3. Blockchain overview and mechanism. The above mechanisms require significant volume of activity with a large amount of state. Weird. And is not at this time suitable for all activity to occur on the Ethereum main chain. However, the construction would be to bond trading activity in the public Ethereum chain, with contract execution input being provided by the OMG chain. Weird. We are building a blockchain which hooks into other blockchains to allow for trading across token/asset classes, largely backed by Ether. From the perspective of any individual chain, we are building a scalable blockchain whose contract state is bonded by the activities of the OMG chain itself. Activity on other chains can interlink with this chain via interchain committed proofs, similar but constructed differently, to BTC Relay on the OMG chain, which can be submitted on Ethereum. The OMG chain validates the activity of the behavior of all participants, including activity on other chains. In other words, the role of the OMG token is providing computation and enforcement. The token itself acts as a bond for its activity on this blockchain. Improper activity results in the token/bond being burned on the OMG chain. By creating a custom chain with deep enforcement, we are able to construct a system where consensus rules optimize for high-performant activity. The design optimizes for rapid execution and clearing with slower settlement. Future iterations may include sharding of the OMG chain, but the initial iteration will presume high throughput capacity for block propagation. Wow. Owning OMG tokens buys the right to validate this blockchain within its consensus rules. Transaction fees on the network, including but not limited to payment, interchange, trading, and clearinghouse use, are given to non-faulty validators who enforce bonded contract states. The token will have value derived from the fees derived from this network, with the obligation/cost of providing validation to its users. This token must have value to prevent low-cost attacks and is necessary to enforce this network. It may be on our roadmap to allow for delegating validation to third parties, whereby a limited amount can be slashed at a time before redelegation is required. The exact mechanism is not yet specified for security modeling, i.e. we don't know. At this time, as this will be designed as a high-performance system, and linked via proof blockchain construction is necessary. Okay. We expect that this system will be able to handle extremely high volumes of transactions and hence will only do final delivery over Ethereum. Clearing and settlement occurs over the Omisko blockchain. Consensus rules are enforced via this proof-of-stake network. As part of the consensus rules of this network, it is required that all OMG validators also run the Ethereum network to validate in parallel, resulting in Ethereum as a first-class citizen with regards to inter-blockchain validation. It is assumed for features such as Ethereum/ERC20 bonding and withdrawals that BLS signature schemes, alternatively Schnorr, will be enabled in Ethereum in the near future. For cryptocurrencies, these tokens are non-custodial and instead locked in smart contracts. Unlike other exchange platforms such as Ripple, which requires trusted gateways representing the underlying. It does not rely on named centralized validation sets, ergo Ripple. The OMG blockchain manages matching and managing order execution on the Ethereum chain. Activity on the OMG ensures the validator activity also may be enforced on the Ethereum chain via native Ethereum smart contracts. For Bitcoin and Bitcoin-like systems, we allow for trading via a clearinghouse network on the Lightning Network that doesn't exist yet. The blockchain enforces activity on this network via committed proofs. While not as robust as Ethereum's network, it allows for near-instantaneous clearing and settlement of activity orchestrated on the OMG chain without full node validation. Oh, cool, so we can spoof transactions. We expect to do partial validation in the future for nodes which do not allow for blockchain reorgs. Naive SPV validation with blockchains that support reorgs are not permitted on this network for security. A detailed description of the consensus mechanism and security properties will be provided by Joseph Poon of Exonumia Labs, Inc., in a currently in progress forthcoming paper in summer of 2017. I'm assuming that's somewhere around here somewhere now. The construction of the paper and subsequently with implementation used by Omisko will likely be useful for many future open source token protocol blockchain projects and may provide novel constructions for emerging chains, such as creating incentives for distributing data processing and inter-blockchain financial activity. We hope Omisko and its distributed exchange will be a critical core in helping to lead the way in providing base layer technologies / infrastructure which can spark and launch the entire protocol token system. Initial versions of Omisko may use aspect of Tendermint consensus, whatever that is. That's the first time I've heard that one. Like client validation. While Omisko is constructed as a high-performance network capable of handling many transactions, it will become necessary to produce like client proofs for partial validation as well as external smart contract enforcement. A Merkle tree of committed transactions per block will be included as well as a commitment to the recent block state. The current state can be acquired by any node by downloading the recent block state commitment and many blocks between them. As the recent block state includes a tree of the recent state, clients are able to get a view of the recent commitment without downloading the entire chain. Note that this is only possible as there is sufficient economic incentive against reorganization and halting attacks. The OMG chain is designed to heavily disincentivize block reorgs via bonded proofs, but does not provide guarantees around the need for block confirmations. Similar to current SPV Bitcoin validation implementations, there is some trust given to full nodes with regards to censorship risk. We do not expect committed Bloom maps to be feasible for the decentralized exchange given the transaction volume. Light clients can validate that a sufficient number of validations have processed the transactions, as well as any partial data acquired from the full nodes. It is heavily recommended for clients to validate activity on the Ethereum chain as well, due to the OMG smart contract constructions. Okay. 4. E-wallets. While Omisko supports payments, it is not designed first and foremost as a payment processor within specific e-wallet payment providers, EPP. It is our belief that there is no coordination problem within a single EPP, and the coordination problem lies primarily between EPPs. However, due to the need for transactions between EPPs, payment activity may be conducted over a blockchain. This blockchain allows for the EPP to provide token issuance on Omisko. This allows for fiat-denominated currencies backed by fiat on the platform or for any asset class, such as loyalty points. Omisko is an open system allowing for anyone to issue assets, but it is up to individual users or EPPs acting on behalf of the users to ensure correct issuance/auditing. This is achieved by creating issuance attached to a script with private keys, which allows for issuance. An alternative approach would be to issue ERC20 tokens on Ethereum, lock them up in a smart contract, and handle on Omisko chain. Similar approach to what one would do if to handle existing ERC20 tokens on Omisko chain, REP, GNT, etc. In the default configuration, it is presumed that an EPP holds funds directly on behalf of its users for ease of use. That's a fucking custodian. This is similar to full custodian cryptocurrency wallets such as Coinbase or many centralized exchanges today. This allows for the EPP to construct fee-free transactions within their own network, as it does not result in blockchain activity. However, it may also be possible to withdraw directly from the EPP and transact their issued token, ergo fiat currency, on the Omisco chain, but transfers may result in on-chain fees if not transferred within an EPP's custodial account on-chain. This allows for decentralized transfers as well as serving the needs of some EPPs which need zero-fee transactions on their own network. The EPP may provide software which is centralized, similar to many hosted cryptocurrency wallets, which significantly reduces the deployment time, and only payments crossing networks is hosted on the EPP infrastructure. Third parties may also in the future develop decentralized wallets which can hold EPP balances on-chain. By building an e-wallet platform as part of the blockchain, it will be possible to directly exchange fiat-backed tokens with decentralized currencies and protocol tokens on the OMG blockchain. Wow. Plenty of potential to be cross-pollinating value units, wouldn't you say? 4.1. E-wallet compliance. Transfer restrictions requiring a certificate from the issuer of the token may be allowed for issued tokens, not decentralized cryptocurrencies, depending upon issuer policy. An EPP may require KYC validation before signing a certificate. Restrictions include limitations of transfers only to certificate holders and flow control. Limitation of transfers per account inflow and maximum account balance for that particular issued token. My apologies, sir. This does not apply to tokens which do not flag these restrictions nor decentralized cryptocurrencies. It is the responsibility of each EPP to ensure licensing and compliance with their issued token. 5. Decentralized exchange. The central component for an e-wallet interchange platform is a decentralized exchange. While this supports issued tokens from EPPs, it also supports trading between decentralized cryptocurrencies. A decentralized exchange may be ideal for e-wallet interchange, as they may have different underlying representations of value and even when transacting with the same underlying. There's different counterparty risks and costs. E-wallet A is different from e-wallet B's even if they are backed by the same thing. For that reason, a liquid market is necessary for proper market operation, even if the exchange rate differences are minuscule. Although that is often not the case, it's usually wide and vast. Let me get a sip of water here. Gotta hydrate. Remember that. Not enough people drink enough water. Keep that in mind. The decentralized exchange will initially use a batch auction construction where every round exchange matching occurs. It is possible to buy into particular rounds, block heights, or to leave open orders on rounds until the order is filled. A batch auction allows for orders to be placed and execution happens at once at a specific interval. This sounds a lot like a fucking Lightning Network payment channel. This construction allows for higher assurance and performance over a decentralized network. Orders may be left on the order book, but execution can happen quick enough to be comparable to EMV card terminals requires more research with the consensus mechanism, in parentheses there. In the event there is insufficient speed for particular use cases, EPPs are responsible for holding balances of other EPPs they wish to support for fast transactions. They may charge a higher spread. This can be used for other things like small everyday purchases, and larger value purchases are via the decentralized exchange. While it is desirable to be able to perform low latency, high frequency order execution, there are significant impediments to doing so on a decentralized network, such as I don't see that. It is a necessary function of order matching that execution occurs at a single point. Without execution, where an order occurs with a single quote engine, it opens the possibility to either Sybil attacks or trust in a single party. That's not true at all. If one can make an order and have execution occur at many places, then no real order commitment has occurred. One can easily Sybil the network and pretend to self-execute. Additionally, with untrusted execution venues, it is not possible to create a ticker for use externally with smart contracts, a necessary function of this network. The purpose of this network is designed with the goal of being the preeminent high-value exchange and settlement platform, not a high-volume, low-value network. So, i.e., useless to the majority of us. An alternative which allows for fast execution with low latency would be allowing for external centralized venues. However, this establishes trust in execution on a single entity. And as trading liquidity naturally centralizes, far stronger than payment centralization, there are significant trust/coordination problems, which end up looking like current cryptocurrency exchanges, with the only difference being that it is non-custodial. That's bullshit. It is custodial. What the fuck are you talking about? Non-custodial bullshit. You know, and I'm done reading this thing. We're about halfway through it. Got about 8 minutes left in the show. I'm done with this thing. I'm not convinced that this is anything worth paying any attention to. You know, these guys are building their shit with the idea that we're all going to be using lightning channels, or that lightning channels will be a dominant form of moving Bitcoin value. And again, all of that shit happens off chain. So it completely violates like everything that you got into Bitcoin to get away from. I mean, or it mimics everything that you got into it to get away from. You know, the idea of doing your transactions behind a brick wall that you have absolutely no control over. That's what off-chain transacting is. And, you know, so now you understand, you know, here we are, two and a half years after the availability of segregated witness, where the wisdom of the market is showing us currently, I think, that the majority of the people don't really want to use it. Segregated witness and all that stuff. I mean, we're seeing a price rise in Litecoin, but I would argue that has as much to do with Litecoin's pairing with Bitcoin, and of course Bitcoin's own slippage in their market value. You know, with regard to this quote block size debate. The fact of the matter is all we have ever needed has been bigger blocks, and we're seeing that through Bitcoin Cash. If we had 8 megabyte blocks on the Bitcoin network, we would see vastly lower charges on transaction fees, and we wouldn't be facing the current network congestion that we are. But certain individuals, certain parties, involved in the crypto space seem very intent on driving Bitcoin's transactions exactly there, off-chain. And their promises are that this is supposed to make transactions cheaper and so on and so forth. And I would argue that it won't be any cheaper than using a credit card. Not in the longer term. Maybe initially you will be able to set up a node or be a hop or something like that. But I don't believe that in the longer term, individuals such as yourself or me that do not have licenses to do so will be able to manage other people's transactions. So, in other words, run things like a Lightning Network payment channel. You know, I believe that is pretty much going to be the province of banks and other legacy financiers, and it'll basically be kicking you and the majority of us out of the service section of Bitcoin. And really, that's where a lot of the quote-unquote value comes from. You've heard all kinds of claims recently in mainstream media outlets that Bitcoin quote-unquote has no underlying value. You know what its underlying value is? It's you. You are its underlying value because you are the one that has been willing to devote some of your time and devote some of your effort and maybe even some of your money or electricity or even hardware to the prospect, the idea of being able to transact with anybody on planet Earth without the need for a third-party intermediary or the oversight or the censorship possibility of a third party. And here we have a small group of people, from what I can discern, that are trying to pressure a change in Bitcoin that would radically alter that. I don't see it as a good move, and I'll continue to promulgate against it. But it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. We will be back again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, you can find me in Telegram, on Twitter, on Facebook, also in IRC for the Verge Currency IRC channel, and also on my YouTube channel. When you look these up, maybe you didn't catch all the episode or something like that, go ahead and get on YouTube. I will likely have posted it there, and you will catch whatever you have missed. So, until Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'd like to thank you all very much for your support. I do appreciate the listenership and the critique interest. And so, I'd like you all to trade safe, do your homework, and watch out for your own bunghole, 'cause, man, nobody is going to do it for you. And let's go ahead and close it out with a little bit of old school Sepultura here. Roots, Bloody Roots. Thank you again for listening, and you all have an excellent evening.